Welcome. I am Linda Riccio. I'm an occupational therapist. I do a lot of teaching about dementia care around the country and how to work with elders with dementia with nursing and therapy and activities in a variety of senior living environments. And I want to talk a little bit about late stage dementia right now. I said earlier in a little overview of dementia that by time I die of dementia, my brain can shrink to 50% of its size. So in late stage dementia, I'm getting really far. My brain is really shrinking. And there's a lot of changes that are happening. Language often changes. Lots of times the person, if they're walking around the environment, you can see that they're just not even paying attention to environmental stimuli. They'll often walk with their head down and really not pay attention to the cues around them. They're becoming self-care dependent. They've got, everybody as they progress in dementia have degrees of macular degeneration and tunnel vision. At this stage, they're probably not scanning below the waist at all. This is when you see positioning issues and swallowing issues and incontinence issues and those kinds of issues that come with it. And it's really because of that shrinking brain. And I want to talk a little bit about how do you communicate with somebody with late stage dementia, and then what kind of activities do they benefit from? The first thing that I want to make sure everybody pays attention to is to go slow. This brain is shrinking. There are studies that have been done. If you have a second hand in the clock on your watch or in the room you're in, look at the clock and look at the second hand and time me for a minute. Time me what 90 seconds is. It's a long time. They can have a 90-second delay in just thinking. So if you say, "Hi Mary, it's time to get up today," it's going to take Mary 90 seconds to process that. So then if you give another cue, "Okay, let's sit up at the side of the bed. I'm going to put your sweater on." That is 2 or 3 cues in 90 seconds. So the first thing that I teach is go slow. When you time 90 seconds, it is really hard to not want to do more and not keep giving. If I can give cues like every 30 seconds, it's a long time. That brain is shrinking and their sensory processing is very delayed. It's more delayed than you think, a lot more than you think. The second thing is, no matter what you say, oftentimes the person with late stage dementia is really paying attention to your body cues, your demonstrational cues, your visual cues, whether you're smiling or lift your arm up, those kinds of things. They're really paying attention to the visual cues. So I say go slow, use visual cues. Go slow, use visual cues. In late stage dementia, if you go to transfer them, if somebody's like holding onto that handrail or that side rail, that's called a death grip, and that you have to like pry the fingers off, that's a classic sign of late stage dementia, that death grip and holding on. In fact, I tell people in late stage dementia, if I'm weight shifting forward, it's kind of like falling off a cliff. They don't like to weight shift forward at all. And if they're walking or transferring from bed to wheelchair, leaning forward is not something they feel comfortable with. It is like falling off a cliff. So they're very guarded. And if you hurry, what will an elder with late stage dementia do? They'll resist, or get combative, or start getting agitated. That could escalate. They can't process. And so the faster you go, or sometimes the more verbal you are, the more that they're going to pull back and resist, and they're going to shut down. So faster you are, you're actually in that situation the agent that's probably facilitating behavior, because this shrinking brain can't adapt. They take time to process everything, if that makes sense. Directional cues. We need to go sit down there, sit on the chair, let's back up. Come on, I want you to back up. That's way too much cues too fast, you said too much, they don't understand what backup is, they're losing all those kinds of directional cues. In fact, they're starting to lose what to do with objects. Lots of times folks start in the dining room just eating 25 to 40%. They're starting to lose the ability to use utensils. You hand them a toothbrush or you hand them a comb. There's a great technique I might demonstrate on you, Natalie. If I want Natalie to brush her hair, it's called hand under hand. Because I don't want you in my personal space, get the repetitive motion, the automatic motion of brushing the hair. I might be able to hand you the brush and let you keep going. I gave you time to learn the technique and to get in an automatic pattern. Thank you. Automatic, go slow kinds of things work really well. Sometimes, because I have to rely on automatic stuff when I'm trying to get someone up, I might say, 1, 2, 3, stand up. You ever done that with your little kids? You're just trying to get them out of the car. 1, 2, 3, let's go. It's kind of an automatic thing. They'll respond to that automatic 1, 2, 3, boom, something happens. And so sometimes I'll use that as a strategy. But for the most part, they're relying on your visual cues, if that makes sense. And their response is very, very delayed. And it's really a challenge because they might not understand cues like, let's get up and walk to the dining room, or let's get up and go to the bathroom, or I need you to do this. That's information that they might not be able to process. So one of the challenges care partners have is getting someone to get up. And lots of times a nurse's aide there might be 2 of them, one on each side, saying, come on, Robin, we're going to get up. And this transfer could become a 2-person assist. Well, I have a technique that I like to use. And it said earlier that one of the last areas of the brain to go is the social area. And I can have a conversation and they'll respond to the friendship and I'm a nice girl and that. And I might say, hi Robin, how are you today? How are you feeling? Are you feeling good? I didn't give Robin any cue to stand up. So a lot of nurses' aides will try to, oh, come on, let's go, we gotta go to the dining room, and it gets to be 1 person on either side, and it's difficult. And it's hard to do from a language standpoint. But we talked about one of the last areas of the brain going being the social area. Even if they're in late stage dementia and they don't have language, they'll still respond to your friendliness and your whole demeanor in your body. And so I might say, hi Robin, how you feeling? Are you having a good day? And just talk to Robin. I anterior weight shifter, and I was yanking on her arm a little bit, just nicely, just a tug, and I didn't give her any cues, and she followed. There's a lot you can do, thank you. There's a lot you can do with late stage dementia to not give a verbal cue, to be social, give a verbal, give a tactile cue. You like me, and I love it when Linda comes to visit. She always tells me funny stories about her dogs and her cat and her kids. That's what the person will remember, and that's how you take away some of that behavior. So my brain is shrinking, I'm shutting down, and it's really easy for me to nap during the day. And I'm not responding to objects or utensils as much. And in fact, it might even be hard for me to eat at lunchtime because my brain is shrinking, so the hunger center might need help turning on. Things like baking bread before lunchtime, or for activities to do awake, arousal, alertness, kind of gross motor music activities. Because this brain is shrinking, the more sensory an activity is, the more I'm going to engage in it. So I have a rule. My first rule with late stage dementia is go slow and use visual cues. That's like rule number 1 and rule number 2. For activities, rule number 3, multi-sensory. All right, so let's list the senses. So it's taste, touch,
Smell.
sight,
Hearing.
Smelling. Did we say that?
Does it smell?
Oh,
Do we
okay.
say touch?
Touch, taste, hear,
Visions?
vision, see, smell,
Smell.
we got them. So if I do an activity and I'm in late stage dementia, it needs to involve at least 3 senses because that brain needs help engaging and responding to it. So any kind of activity has to involve 3. We have, it's easy to become a passive participant, but if you can involve at least three senses, you really see that person with late stage dementia kind of pick up and engage more. They really respond to music, particularly if I'm living in the past, the I Love Lucy era or earlier, what kind of music might I benefit most from? Big band, any spiritual music. If I lived in the country and western, and country and western back in the I Love Lucy era is a little different than country and western of today. I know, I grew up in it. Let me tell you, what I grew up with is different than what you hear on the radio now. But they respond to multisensory, to music, to movement, anything spiritual. And if you do exercise with an object, something, because we want to get as many of those senses as possible. And focusing on the person, not on the task. Because if it becomes about the task completion, you're probably going to get agitation, resistance, combativeness, if that makes sense. The challenges do you have in activities?
People falling asleep. We start and then they doze off, and after 5 or 10 minutes, half of the group is asleep in their chair.
One of the things I do, I am an advocate of a gross motor sensor group an hour before lunch for the elders with late stage dementia so they can get that opportunity for awake arousal alertness. I'm also with middle and late stage an advocate for a group at change of shift time to expend some of that energy that happens with all the staff walking in and walking off to help limit sundowning. But sometimes we just bring the elder to the activity, turn on the music and expect them to be engaged. And I go around and greet everybody individually. Hi Natalie, how are you? And I go around on everybody's eye level and personally greet every single person. And I might rub their back or squeeze their hand or do something because this brain is shrinking. It needs help checking in. It can't switch on. And if it's an activity where there's turn taking, but we could all, oh, look what she did, Holly got it, let's all clap for Holly. The more automatic kinds of clapping or that we can engage so it doesn't become too passive. If when it was Holly's turn, whatever Holly did, let's clap, everybody give Holly a clap. Then it keeps it multi-sensory and it keeps folks checked in. Because it's easy, I've got this shrinking brain and it's just easy to check out and fall asleep. And particularly if this is an activity before lunch, we want to help you wake up so you can get as much intake in at mealtime as possible. What other kinds of challenges?
What about for some of the elders that are yelling out, or you hear those repetitions, those constant verbal repetitions, and that seems to agitate some of the other elders, and sometimes you hear the shut up.
Sometimes my care needs are really heavy, and it might be a 2 or 3 person assist, and it's easy to be isolated in my room. And so my first thing might be, what kind of stimulus is there? Music. I know the It's Never Too Late system has spiritual music and lectures and things of almost every discipline, religious background on it. What are things that are stimulating and meaningful for me? If you put CNN on in the news, I'm going to tune it out. It's probably agitating background noise. So the first thing is what are we doing to make it a meaningful day, even for the elder with late stage dementia? And that's tough. And it may be that we, you know, families usually are frustrated and want to know what to do to help. It may be to, we have to say, Tabitha, I know your mom is in her room a lot, and sometimes it's easier because there's a lot of noise in the day room and the dining room. Is there any kind of music she likes to listen to, or certain kind of church music? Can we bring in a tape recorder or a boombox? I mean, families often would love to help. I have to give an example of a resident. It's a true story. This was a lady with late stage dementia. She happened to be the daughter of a nurse at my pediatrician's office. And her mother would come and visit her every day. Her daughter would come and visit her every day at the end of her workday. And she would sit up and she'd pound on her lap tray all day long and just kind of keep pounding, and she'd be bored because there was nothing for her to do. And it was very hard for her to engage. Well, one of the things that the speech therapists help us find out is that she could read cues and retain information a lot easier than if we told her verbally. So actually the therapist helped make a couple cue cards and put them on her lap tray, because her daughter came almost every day at around 5:15, and her daughter's name was Jana. And so it would be around 2:30, 3 o'clock, around the sundowning time, that the mom would start yelling. And so when she would start yelling, I want to see my daughter, help me, I want to see my daughter. They actually kind of came up with some cue cards to say, Jana comes after work at 5:30. And they put a clock, and she was in the late stage enough that she could cue to the clock, and she would see that cue card on her, and it worked. It really worked for her. If I'm bored, I'm gonna act out. I'm either gonna act out and get agitated, or I'm gonna fall asleep. And if I fall asleep during the day, I'm probably gonna be a problem at night. So I still need something meaningful for me to do at my stage of dementia. So with my life, what is that meaningful for me? I know some elders are really at that stage in their life where they're remembering kids and that, and sometimes it's working with a baby doll and doing things with the baby doll. I've seen late stage elders fold baby clothes and taking 20 minutes to fold one little boy's tunic outfit exactly and try ironing with her hand. You have to find that thing for the person. But they still need to have a meaningful day, and it's easy if they're in a more advanced wheelchair, such as a Jerry chair or a Broda chair or something. It's easy sometimes not to give them a meaningful day. And then, is the behavior because I'm bored, or is the behavior because I'm wet and you might not realize I'm wet, or I'm in pain and you might not realize I'm in pain? Trying to find out some of those things.